Hi, good morning. Myself, Eby John. I'm a microbiology graduate and I have been working here in Dubai in food safety field for more than 5 years. I have been working with Rixos Premium, which is a 5-star hotel, and then with Sibyl Palace Hospitality, and right now I'm working with South Hospitality, which is a restaurant chain. So, what are we going to discuss today? Today, we are going to discuss about some of the food safety control measures which can be used in hotels as well as catering. You know what do you mean by hotels and caterings, right? Hotels, which can include 5-star hotel, 4-star hotel, 3-star hotel. And for catering, you might know, obviously, right? Because they make food in their central kitchen and then they will transport the food to the event or a party or whatever there is. So, we are going to discuss about the food safety control measures in hotels and catering. So, before moving to that topic, we should know something, right? What do you mean by food safety? Or why do we need safe food? So, food safety or safe food means the food which doesn't have any sort of hazards or contaminants which can cause ill to the person who is consuming. That is meant by safe food. Or that is the practice where we do food safety. You need to make sure the food which is served to the consumer is safe to eat. When the consumer consumes it, they will not get any sort of injuries or harm or illness. So why is it necessary? Why we should make sure the food we are giving is safe? Do you know? As per WHO, each year while consuming unsafe food, people are getting more than 200 types of diseases. It is leading to different kinds of diseases consuming unsafe food items. Maybe from diarrhea, stomach ache, or fever, vomiting, and in rare cases it will lead to death. So as per WHO, as I said, each year it is leading to, consuming unsafe food is leading to more than 200 types of diseases. Also, each year, every year, around 600 million people are getting ill from consuming unsafe food items. 600 million people, which is almost nearly 1 in every 10 person is getting ill from consuming unsafe food items. Also, it is leading to the death of around 420,000 people each year. So we should make sure the food which is given to our customer or consumer is safe, right? Especially some people, especially the babies, especially the elder people, as well as the pregnant women, they are more prone to get illness from having unsafe food items because they are more weak. So why do we need some control measures? You can just take the food and smell it, and if it is smelling good, you know it's safe, right? Or you can look at it, it doesn't look spoiled, it means it's safe, right? Or you taste it and it feels entirely amazing, so it's safe, right? Always keep in mind, you cannot know if the food is safe or not by smelling, tasting, or by looking. You cannot identify if the food is safe or not just by smelling, tasting, or eating. So for that, we need food safety control measures. Okay, so here in Dubai, we have our food safety authority by Dubai municipality. They have published food code, which is a magazine which is having all the rules and regulations and whatever should be followed by the food safety unit, the food units, in order to maintain the safest food possible. So now we know what do you mean by food safety and why do we need safe food, right? So have you ever thought what makes food unsafe, right? What makes food unsafe? There are something called hazards. Hazards means danger, right? Something called hazards. If the hazard is present in the food, then it is unsafe. So we have commonly 4 types of hazards. 4 types of hazards. One is physical, one is chemical, one is allergenic, and then microbiological. These are the 4 types of hazards. So physical, it is something you can see, you can feel, you can touch, you can take it away. That is physical hazard. For example, let's say a hair in a food item, that's a physical hazard, right? Maybe a glass piece or a metal piece or a piece of paper or tissue in the food item, that is a physical hazard, right? Sometimes the physical hazard doesn't do any injuries. If it's a hair in the food item, it doesn't lead to injury, right? But then think, if you are served a food with a hair or something in it, what will be your reaction? Will you be able to eat the food item? Sometimes you will report it to the hotel or catering. Otherwise, what will you do? You will avoid that restaurant or hotel entirely, right? So it will lead to the loss of business, right? And think, if it is not a hair, if it is a piece of glass or something, and you didn't see it, and when you are consuming, what happened? You consume the piece of glass, and then it is causing injury to you, right? So these are physical hazards. Sometimes they may cause injuries, or sometimes they may cause loss of business. Now, how can we control these physical hazards? Since it is physical, it is visible, we need to make sure we are preparing the food in clean environment, right? We are making sure we are wearing the proper attire, the gloves and everything, so that there is no chance our items, whether the hair or something, is falling to the food item, right? And then it should be prepared in clean environment, and then the items should be stored separately and properly. And then while transferring also, we should make sure the food is covered, so that we can control physical hazards to a limit. Now, moving to the next one, it is chemical hazards. Chemical hazards, from the name you can understand, right? It is some sort of chemicals in food items. Maybe it can be the cleaning chemicals, maybe it can be the pesticides, or sometimes even, sometimes we add preservatives to the food, right? Maybe we will add colors to the food, right? These are all chemicals. When these are added in excess amount, it can cause some sort of food poisoning. And if for the fruits and vegetables, they are grown by spraying pesticides and everything, right? If they are not properly given any control measures or not properly washed, then there is a chance the pesticide is still there and it can lead to chemical contamination. So how can we control chemical contamination? Main thing is, while preparing food items, make sure no chemicals are nearby. The chemicals should be stored separately, so there is no sort of chances of contamination of chemical to the food item. And also for the vegetables and fruit items, which will come in later session, there is a proper sanitation procedure to make sure the food is not having any sort of pesticides or anything. And then make sure the staff who is preparing, they should know about using the chemicals. Which are chemicals, in what way and how. They should be given training in order to use the chemicals properly, so that they won't mess up the food. Now, allergenic hazard. So now more and more people are getting susceptible to allergens. If they eat certain kind of food items, their body won't receive it. Especially, there is 14 groups of identified allergens. But then, depending on the people, there are more. It depends and differs from person to person. So this allergen hazard, mostly this will lead to from maybe rashes, maybe vomiting, maybe sneezing, to high damaging items like breathing issues, anaphylaxis, and all. So for controlling allergen hazards, the major way is proper training and proper communication. Who are serving the guests, they should be knowing what are the allergens, and they should be able to identify the allergens in the food items and communicate it to the guest. Also, they should make sure they are asking the guest if they are having any allergies, and then confirming the same to the chef who is preparing. So the chef, they can prepare the food items separately, they can use the items separately, so make sure there is no allergic hazard in the food item. So these are the ways to control or prevent allergic hazards. Now, the fourth one and major important one, microbiological hazard. So microbiological hazards, what it includes? Mainly bacteria, virus, fungus, parasites. One thing, we cannot see microorganisms, right? They are too small to be seen with our eyes, right? So the presence of these microorganisms in the food item will cause food poisoning, and that will lead to many damages. Especially since we cannot see them, or we cannot detect their presence in the food just by looking or smelling or tasting the food items. We cannot detect their presence in the food item. What we can do is, we know at what temperature they will grow well. So for most of the disease-causing microorganisms, for most of the pathogens in the food items, they need a certain temperature to grow well. That is from 5 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. From 5 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius, it is called the danger zone. In this temperature, the microorganisms, they will grow very well, from 5 to 60. What about above 60 degrees Celsius? It's hot. Above 60 degrees Celsius, the microorganisms won't grow well. At 75 degrees Celsius, most of the disease causing pathogens or microorganisms will die. And below 5 degrees Celsius, all the microorganisms or most of the disease causing microorganisms, they will be in a slow phase. They won't be growing as well in 5 to 60 range. They will be growing very slowly. And at minus 18 degrees Celsius, they will be in a sleeping state. So our aim is to make sure the food item is not in the danger zone. That is from 5 to 60 degrees Celsius. We should make sure. So now we have gone through some of the hazards, right? What is causing damage to the food, right? What is causing the food to be unsafe. So now we will discuss the control measures. Okay, so moving to the control measures, we need some prerequisites because which is needed in advance than the control measures, right? So for example, building and equipments, we need a proper kitchen, right, in order to start the operation, right? We need proper facilities, right, for the chillers, the coolers, the kitchen equipments, the burners, all these things, the equipment we require for the preparation, right? And then proper cleaning and sanitation. We need a safe and hygiene kitchen in order for a safe operation to make sure the food is safe, right? And then let's say, for example, we need to give proper training to the staff training. It is very important because the staff, they should know what they are doing. They should know different aspects of food safety, how to handle food safely, and then what are foodborne illnesses, what is cross-contamination, all these things they should know so they can properly do the food. And then also, it is very required, they should know about the proper personal hygiene practices. They should be able to identify what is wrong with them, and then they should be able to rectify. They should be putting the proper chef aprons, the chef hats, and the gloves whenever it is required, and they should know what is personal hygiene, right? So these trainings all should be given, and then there should be proper pest control system because many of the microbiological hazards is introduced from the pest, like the cockroaches, like the rats. Even these pests can be a physical hazard as well. Sometimes a cockroach or fly in the food item, it is a physical hazard, right? So there should be a proper pest control mechanism, as well as waste management, a engineering team for the maintenance of the equipments and the kitchen, and like what I said, the staff training. Also, one more thing required is approved suppliers, because be it hotel or catering, they buy the ingredients from a supplier, right? So they have to make sure the supplier is approved. Approved by whom? From the Dubai municipality. They are licensed to give the food items to you. They should be inspected and they should have the approved license, right? They should have the license from the Dubai municipality in order. So we should make sure we are buying the food items from some approved suppliers. So these are all the prerequisites. Now, moving to the control measures, we have certain control measures which we are going to discuss now. So once you buy the food from the supplier, the food is coming to you, right? The food is coming to your hotel or catering, right? So what is the first step? We need to make sure we are receiving it properly, right? So for that, one of the major control measure is while the receiving of the food items, you need to do the proper checks. If it is a chilled item, the requirement is we should make sure the chilled items we are receiving below 5 degrees Celsius. For the frozen items, we should make sure we are receiving the items below minus 18 degrees Celsius. These are the checks to be done while receiving. And also, we should make sure the transport vehicle in which the food is brought in, it is having the temperature. If it's a chilled vehicle or frozen vehicle, we should make sure the temperature inside is okay, and then there is no, it's clean and it's properly maintained, and the staff know the procedures, everything. So we should make sure while receiving, we do these checks. Also, for the items, we need to do the physical checks. We need to make sure the item is not physically damaged, it's not broken, there is no dents or anything. That's also we should make sure we are doing. And so make sure while receiving the food items, chilled items, we are receiving below 5 degrees Celsius, and frozen items, we are receiving below minus 18 degrees Celsius. If not, what will happen? If the temperature is not maintained, what will happen? The bacteria might have already grown, and then without our knowing, it will be already spoiled or poisoned. Now, while storing the food items, after we receive, we store the food items, right? While storing, we should make sure we are following proper method, FIFO, first in, first out. right? Whichever is expiring first, we should store first. Whichever is expiring last, you should store in the last section. So we are using the first, the one expiring the first, okay? And then for the cold items like the chilled and frozen food items, we should make sure we are storing them in chillers and freezers. With chilled items being the temperature below 5 degrees Celsius, and frozen items always the temperature is minus 18 degrees Celsius. Now once we store this item, sometimes we need to defrost the item, right? If the chicken is coming in frozen state, we cannot directly cook it likewise, right? We need to defrost the item, right? So what can be done? So 3 methods can be used. Either we can defrost the food items in keeping in a chiller or under running water, or we can use the microwave. But we must always make sure the temperature, the middle section or the warmest portion of the food item doesn't go above 5 degrees Celsius. That is the requirement. Because if it goes above 5 degrees Celsius, what will happen? There will be rapid growth of bacteria. It will cause harm to the food item, right? So always we should make sure while defrosting, the temperature doesn't go above 5 degrees Celsius. The best way is keeping in chiller, because the temperature is always less than 5 degrees Celsius and the food will be defrosted slowly. And then we should make sure once defrosted, the food should not be refrozen and it should be used within 48 hours. That is one important control measure. And then while storing chilled food items, we should always make sure the temperature is below 5 degrees Celsius, because that will ensure the bacteria is not multiplying rapidly and then they are not multiplying, so the food is safe. So this should be taken care. And then another step, like we said, in case if there is a chemical hazard in the fruit items or vegetables or leaves, because why? The fruits, vegetables and leafy items, they may be used in salads and all, right? We might not be cooking. These are just, they will slice it and will serve it as salads, right? So there is no control measure in between. There, this step is very important. Sanitation of fruits and vegetables is very important, because this step will make sure the fruits, the vegetables or the leafy vegetables are safe to consume. So different chemicals are used in different properties, but for us we use parasitic acid based solution. So we should make sure we are properly putting the items, the fruits or vegetables, in the solution for at 150 ppm for at least 2 minutes. So this procedure takes into two steps. First of all, you have to debox the items, and then you need to pre-wash the item. After that, we have to put it in the chemical at 150 ppm for at least 2 minutes. So this will make sure all the bacteria or pesticides are removed from the food item, so they are safe to proceed. Now, while preparing the food items or while storing the food items, we should make sure there is no cross-contamination happening. What do you mean by cross-contamination? From the name itself we can know, right? That is a transfer of harmful bacteria from one food item to another food item, right? It can be of 3 types. Maybe it will be direct cross-contamination, indirect cross-contamination, or drip. Direct cross-contamination, from the name itself we can know, right? If you are just storing a sandwich and a raw poultry or a chicken together, if they are touching, that is direct cross-contamination. From the raw poultry, the microorganisms can directly go to the ready-to-eat sandwich, right? What about indirect cross-contamination? Think of a situation, I'm having a chopping board and I have certain food items to prepare, so I have a chopping board. So I am preparing some raw meat in this chopping board, and then without changing the chopping board or without washing or without changing the knife, I am preparing some ready-to-eat items in the same chopping board. What will happen? The microorganisms from the raw meat will be going to the chopping board, and from the chopping board to the ready-to-eat items, right? This is indirect cross-contamination. And for the drip cross-contamination, when we are storing the food items, if the storage is not proper, like if we are storing the ready-to-eat items below raw items, there is a chance that the raw items may drip and then that will fall onto the ready-to-eat items, causing cross-contamination. So while preparation, while storage, and while transporting, we should make sure there is no cross-contamination happening. Some of the common methods we can prevent cross-contamination. One is color coding. For different food items, we can use different colored chopping boards and knives. For example, for vegetables, we can use green And then for cooked meat we can use yellow, for raw meat we can use red, and for raw fish we can use blue, and dairy we can use white. So we should make sure only that food items it's being used in this chopping board and the knife. So to a limit we can avoid cross contamination. Also while storing we should make sure the different food items are stored differently in different chillers, and then they are stored accordingly, like ready to eat items on top and raw items on the bottom. Now moving to the next step, which is cooking and reheating. So while after cutting and all these things, we are going to cook the item, right? So this is an important control measure. While cooking we should make sure the food is above 75 degrees. The food temperature is going above 75 degrees for at least 30 seconds. Why is it necessary? Because only in that temperature the disease causing microorganisms or the pathogens will die. So for cooking and reheating, the control measure is 75 degrees Celsius, at least minimum 75 degrees Celsius for 30 seconds. We should make sure the warmest portion or the middle portion of the food item is at 75 degrees Celsius minimum for 30 seconds, so that all the disease causing bacteria will be dead. Now the next step is rapid cooling. For some food items, once you cook it, you will be not serving as such, right? Sometimes it will be served cold. So for that we need to cool down the food item, right? So can we just keep the food items outside so that it cools down by its own? There is a problem with that procedure, right? Because if you are leaving the food items outside in the environment, in the danger zone, what will happen? The bacteria will multiply, right? The spore-forming bacteria will germinate, right? But the bacteria will produce toxins which cannot be destroyed in reheating, right? So we need to make sure the food is cooled in less time as possible. So for that we have the process called rapid cooling. So there is a device called blast chiller. If we are using in blast chiller, we can make sure the food is going from 60 degrees Celsius or above 60 degrees Celsius to less than 5 degrees Celsius within 2 hours or 120 minutes in that machine. Or we can use the ice bath method, where the temperature should go from 60 degrees Celsius or more to less than 20 degrees Celsius in 2 hours, and from 20 degrees Celsius to less than 5 degrees Celsius in 4 hours. So from 60 to less than 5 degrees Celsius in a total of 6 hours should be taken care of. So while making sure we are reducing the temperature rapidly from high temperature to low temperature, we are making sure the food is in the danger zone for limited time, so for the bacteria to go. So thus we can control their multiplication. That is an important control measure. Now sometimes in hotels and all, they will be serving the food in hot holdings, buffet systems, right? So hot holding, the food is kept in the chefing dish and all, right? So there also we need a proper control measure. We need to make sure the food is having a temperature of 60 degree or more. That is the requirement. If the food is not in 60 degree or less than 60 degree, which is in the danger zone, we should make sure the food is removed within 2 hours. The maximum the food can be outside of good zone, or the maximum the food can be in a danger zone is 2 hours for hot food items. Now moving to the cold holding. So here also the cold food items should be maintained the temperature. The temperature requirement is less than 5 degrees Celsius. For cold food items, we should also make sure it's in buffet or it's in the cold holding at a temperature below 5 degrees Celsius. What if the temperature is above 5 degrees Celsius? Same like the hot items. For the cold food items, if the temperature is in danger zone or above 5 degrees Celsius, the maximum allowed time is 4 hours. Within the 4 hours, you have to discard the food item. Now, for catering, we have some extra control measures, because as we have already discussed, for catering, they might be producing the food in a central kitchen and then they will be transporting the food to their destinations or events, right? So they have an extra process transporting, right? So for that also we need to make sure there are some certain control measures. So for example, for transporting, our aim is to make sure the food is in the controlled temperature and within the time limit. That is the requirement. So before that, we should make sure the equipments and the vehicles we are using for transporting, it's clean, it's disinfected, it's having the proper temperature. For cold food items, if chilled vehicles, and for frozen food items, frozen vehicles are used, so that the food items maintain the temperature. Also, we can make sure to use proper insulated boxes or hot cabinets in order to make sure the food is maintaining the temperature. So for cold food items, we should make sure while transporting the temperature stays below 5 degrees Celsius. And for hot food items, we should make sure the temperature stays above 60 degrees Celsius. And while transporting, the major thing we should make sure is, we should make sure we are making the delivery or we are reaching the destination within 2 hours. For the cold food items, it should be maintaining the temperature below 5 degrees Celsius, and then it should be reaching the destination within 2 hours. Because more than that, it's going, if there is no proper temperature maintained, then there is bacterial multiplication and it will cause food poisoning. For hot food items, we should make sure the temperature is above 60 degrees Celsius and the food item should reach the destination within 2 hours. So that the food, we can say, if it is reaching the destination within 2 hours, we can say the food item is safe. Because we didn't give the time for the bacteria to multiply and we maintained the temperature, right? So while transporting the food items, while loading the food items, we should make sure they are maintaining the temperature and they are reaching the destination within 2 hours so that we can make sure the food item is safe. So these are some of the common food safety control measures which can be used in hotels and catering. So most of the food safety control measures are common for both hotels and caterings. But then for catering there will be additional measures, like we see the transportation. During the transportation we should make additional control measures, right? So these are the common food safety control measures. So now we can move to the next section.